So I got off of my rhythm with my backlog. For the last year, I've been pretty disciplined about picking a game and typically beating it, right? Sticking with just one or two titles at a time. And it was really nice. All of last year, I was able to knock out a bunch of games I've always wanted to beat. But for the last 3 weeks, I just have not felt like sticking to a plan, at least with gaming. I've kind of wandered. I've tried a bunch of different things, and it is funny because while it's really satisfying, I'm now at that point looking back at the end of February. We're like a week away from March. Going, wow, I both liked it and didn't like moving away from that routine. So let's talk about that in the video today. Typically, if it's a day where I'm not making a video, I have about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to game if I kind of push it. And lately, I just haven't felt all that motivated to play as much. I've been getting off the normal job and then working out, and by the time you've made dinner and done chores, it's like maybe watch an episode or two of a show you like and then go to bed. That's kind of been where my head is at. I was really diligent in January and in December about beating a ton of different games, and I had a great time, but after I rolled credits on Horizon Forbidden West, I've just sort of been pretty apprehensive to move on and to pick another game and just really stick with it. Now, part of that is because of something really cool and very fun. I got to try PlayStation VR for the very first time here 2-3 weeks ago, I want to say. Got a used headset, been picking up a bunch of used games, and it's awesome. I've never actually tried VR gaming before. This is the first experience I've had with it. And even though it's a 10-year-old headset, this has been a remarkably cool experience. Something totally new that I've been getting lost in. I'll do a whole video talking about my experience, but just a few games to talk about. Wipeout, Omega Collection. This is a really cool, just HD-ification of a bunch of different Wipeout games. You can play it normal. You don't need the VR headset, but you can play through the whole game in VR inside the cockpit, and it feels like a roller coaster. It's so cool. Astro Rescue Mission. Another ridiculously cool just demonstration of what 3D space can do. I tried Skyrim VR and Ace Combat 7 VR, and Ace Combat is a dream come true. Growing up playing that series like Ace Combat 4 on the PS2, and now being able to sit in the cockpit of an F-18 and it feels like you're flying. It's absolutely insane. Gran Turismo Sport VR. I guess what nobody could really explain and what I didn't understand about VR is that sense of depth. Because you have the two offset fields for the different screens, it gives the illusion of that 3D effect. It's not real, it's a gimmick, and it's whatever. Like, I have a lot to say about VR. I think it's super cool, but I'm ready to come back to the land of normal games. That depth adds something completely insane. Like going through Skyrim VR, I noticed things that I'd never seen before. So many interiors and decorations and just the way spaces feel. You actually see the scale of it and feel it in VR, and that is something that no video can get across. So it is very cool, and I'm curious like what the modern iteration of VR feels like with a new headset, not a 10-year-old piece of tech at this point. But for about 3 weeks, I've just been stumbling into those games, playing about 20-30 minutes, then getting motion sick, and then calling it a night. And before I knew it, 2-3 weeks have passed. I haven't really made any progress other than a little bit of Legend of Dragoon on any games. And I kind of feel bad. It's this mixed set of emotions where I like gaming with no pressure. I like sort of enjoying something in the moment, kind of following what you want to do. But you also lose out on some of the cool benefits of following a system and being more intentional. When you've got that backlog and you've chosen the game or two that you want to go through, there's a real good sense of reward finishing that game, knocking it off and knowing like, hey, I got great value out of this. I accomplished my goal, that kind of a thing. So it's this weird push and pull, this unspoken pressure now in gaming communities, especially backlog talks, where If you start something, the idea is you should finish it. But playing a game and finishing a game aren't the same thing, and they don't need to be. I think that's what the last 3 weeks has kind of shown me. Enjoying something in the moment is just as valid as playing it to completion. But you have to realize there are trade-offs for both sides. Sometimes finishing a game can feel like work. And if that happens, sometimes people are like, well, what's the point? This hobby is all about fun. But I also know there are plenty of games that I had to push through dull moments to get to a later point that was absolutely incredible and well worth pushing through the slowdown. Ultimately, games, I think, should fit into your life in a supportive way and not the other way around. So did I kind of miss being more intentional these last 3 weeks? And the answer is yes. There is a lot of satisfaction and honestly sort of mental peace in seeing something through to the end. Right now, I miss that feeling of reflecting on a completed experience and knowing that I gave it my full attention. So I'm shifting back into that mode where I know I want to finish more games. I don't want to force it. I think this is that tricky balance, and I really want to know, have you felt this before? And what do you think of balancing the intention of finishing backlog games or just gaming however you want, the way you feel that day? I think obviously hobbies are great because they can be flexible. It's not your job, it's not homework. It's whatever you want it to be and how it fits in. If you're in a phase where you want to complete lots of games, that's awesome. If you're in a phase where you just want to vibe with whatever and not have the same level of intention, that's also great. Just like we change as people, our needs change over time, and maybe you gotta add some looseness in if the day job or the normal experience is getting too rigid. There's no right or wrong way to play, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And the idea that you need to finish everything that you start is not the case. But as fun as the last 3 weeks have been, I'm looking forward to getting back on a routine because I've built an arbitrary kind of due date for a handful of games I know I want to finish before May, because the Switch 2 is coming and I want to have the plate clear so I can just jump into that thing wholeheartedly. Even just hearing that out loud sounds silly to me because it's a total arbitrary date. You can obviously pause whatever you're playing at the time to do something else. So it's an odd push and pull balance where the intentionality is nice, but at the same time, sometimes the structure is just a little much. What do you think about this concept? I would love to know. And what games are you playing right now? Looking for some suggestions. So I appreciate you watching the video. I hope your Thursday is going very well. Shout outs to the Patreon supporters, Trevor, Super Ammo, Alex Shaw, and Feppo Zopo. And I will see you all again very soon.